Hello, everyone. This is Live Life Well TV host Robert Landau. Welcome back to another episode of a weekly show here on Live Life Well TV that we call America's Greatest Personalities. This episode, it is my sincere pleasure to present the life story of what I feel is truly America's greatest Broadway musical composer ever. His name is Stephen Sondheim, and I'm a big fan. So stay tuned. So here are some things the great Stephen Sondheim is famous for saying. He once said, "Everything depends upon execution. Having just a vision is no solution." Stephen also said, "It takes almost as much imagination to justify what you write as it does to write it." Mr. Sondheim also said, "Art in itself is an attempt to bring order out of chaos." He also said, "I happen to like movies and plays about dislikable people as long as I get to know why they are what they are." He also said, "The dumbing down of the country reflects itself on Broadway. The shows get dumber and the public gets used to them." And finally, Mr. Sondheim has said, "Music straitjackets a poem and prevents it from breathing on its own, whereas music serves to liberate a lyric. Poetry doesn't need music, lyrics do." Finally, I'm going to throw in one more because I think these are all very telling of Mr. Sondheim's genius of a personality. He once said, "It's not so much what you like as it is that you like what you do." Is that true? So if you haven't heard the name Stephen Sondheim and you're not familiar with him at all, here is a long list of musicals that he has composed. Anyone Can Whistle, Assassins, Candide, West Side Story, Company, Do I Hear a Waltz, Evening Primrose, Follies, The Frogs, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, Gypsy, Into the Woods, A Little Night Music, Marry Me a Little, Merrily We Roll Along, Pacific Overtures, Passion, Roadshow, Saturday Night, Sunday in the Park with George, Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, and if that isn't enough, you're going to love Tomorrow. So how did Stephen Sondheim become America's most recognized composer of Broadway musicals? Here is just a little of his truly amazing story. Stephen Joshua Sondheim was born in New York City on March 22nd, 1930. He was the only child of his parents, Etta and Herbert Sondheim. By all accounts, Stephen was a lonely child. How so? Unfortunately, his parents divorced rather early on, so even though Stephen didn't grow up in a deprived home, the idea of parents or siblings nurturing him and giving him the love he so sorely needed would never come to pass. I'd like someone actually to do a study on how many famous Americans came from an unhappy childhood. But that is not necessarily a curse. One can use that to their advantage as a blessing, particularly if you're an artist, and particularly if you're Stephen Sondheim. If you write music, if you write lyrics, if you create shows like Stephen Sondheim has, you have to be connected with your emotional state. That's the true creative process. You have to know what it feels like to feel loss. You have to know what it feels like to have intense psychological issues. You have to know what it feels like to feel joy, so on and so forth. All the colors of the emotional rainbow. So if you grow up with not the best of childhoods for whatever reason, you can actually flip that negative into a positive and make it work for you in your creative process as an artist. So, when Stephen Sondheim was 9 years of age, he went to see a Broadway show. As soon as that curtain rose, he knew that musicals would be his passion, would be his calling for the rest of his life. But how was he going to get there? That's what I love about doing this series, because all of these people just started out like you and I, but their journey from A to Z, crossing that finish line, is fascinating to me. How they did it is really worth an episode in this series. When Stephen was 10, he became friendly with another boy by the name of James Hammerstein. Last name sound familiar? I think so. James just happened to be the son of famed Broadway composer Oscar Hammerstein II, and it was the latter that took young Stephen under his wing years later when he heard that Sondheim wanted to compose musicals. Sondheim had just written his first musical, and he actually asked Hammerstein to critique it, never telling Hammerstein that he was the one, Sondheim, that composed it. Stephen would later say these words: "In that one afternoon, I learned more about songwriting and the musical theater than most people learn in a lifetime." Once graduating from college, Stephen started to write a number of musicals as he needed to peddle them to various producers of the Broadway theater. That's particularly in those days how you would get a show, your show, on Broadway. He got his start as a composer. But really, even before that, he really got his start as a lyricist. Writing lyrics actually led to composing. Stephen ended up meeting the great Leonard Bernstein, who at the time was in the process of composing an updated musical version of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. You know what that show turned out to be? Recognizing that Sondheim had a real talent, a real way with lyrics, unlike anybody else that Bernstein knew, Leonard Bernstein asked Stephen Sondheim to write the lyrics for the show that he was working on, and that show was West Side Story. So Leonard Bernstein wrote the music to West Side Story, but Stephen Sondheim wrote the lyrics to West Side Story. That collaboration went over so well, Bernstein approached Stephen again to write the lyrics for Candide, a musical version of a book by the same name by French master writer Voltaire. He has been honored with 8 Tony Awards. I'm not talking about Voltaire. I'm talking about Sondheim. He's been honored with 8 Grammy Awards, a Pulitzer Prize, and an Oscar. Not only that, folks, but the New York Times calls Stephen Sondheim, quote, the greatest and perhaps best known artist in American musical theater, unquote. And you know what? I agree. In over a 30-year span, Stephen Sondheim has turned out an amazing Broadway musical about every 3 years or so. Just incredible work. No doubt you've probably seen one of Stephen's shows. I've seen a lot of them, and I also have them on DVD. I have original cast albums on CD. I'm a true self-admitted Stephen Sondheim fan. He once said, "I'm interested in the theater because I'm interested in communication with audiences. Otherwise, I would be in concert music. I'd be in another kind of profession. I love the theater," he goes on to say, "as much as music. And the whole idea of getting across to an audience and making them laugh, making them cry, just making them feel is paramount to me." So that's the key. That is the essence of the great Stephen Sondheim. So what else can I tell you? Well, actually, quite a bit. He is still with us as of this filming, and thank God for that. I would encourage you to check out some of Stephen's work on YouTube. There are some incredible clips there of his work. He has also been honored by many of Broadway's greatest performing artists: Mandy Patinkin, Liza Minnelli, Bernadette Peters, Elaine Stritch. The list actually goes on and on and on, at concerts that have been filmed for TV, some of them by PBS. And those concerts, you can hear a vast selection of Stephen's work from various Broadway shows performed by some incredible people who, if they weren't in them, have an appreciation for Stephen's talent and love performing them. Carnegie Hall has been a venue where some of these shows that are in the form of tributes to Stephen Sondheim have been filmed, as well as some other theaters. Do go onto YouTube and just do a search for Stephen Sondheim, and you'll be amazed at what comes up. There are also many interviews with Stephen on YouTube, and I encourage you to watch those to get a true insight to this amazing, so very talented human being. I think one of his best known musical numbers comes from the show A Little Night Music, and it is Send in the Clowns. But that's not even getting your big toe wet when it comes to Stephen's vast catalog of Broadway compositions. I think my favorite Broadway musical of Stephen Sondheim's is Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. It's a very dark, dark tale, but brilliantly told. There is an in-concert version that was taped back in, I think it's LA, with the LA Philharmonic, with Patti LuPone in it. I encourage you to see that. I mean, I could give you a long list of things, but suffice it to say that if you didn't know of Stephen Sondheim before this episode, now you do. But it's up to you to take it a step further and hear the incredible music that Stephen has blessed us with. Thank you, Stephen Sondheim, for being the amazing person that you are and really adding so much to the incredible performing art, American performing art, that is the one and only Broadway musical. This has been Robert Landau, Live Life Well TV host, with another episode of America's Greatest Personalities. Thank you for tuning in.